Joined by Jonas Clark, Wesley Perkins, and Steven Anderson. And let's talk about this win. I'm really upset. This game broke me in so many ways. Spurs lose a close one to the Philadelphia 76ers by a final score of 132 to 130. San Antonio was down by as many as 14 points. Then it looks like all hope is gone. They come back in the fourth quarter. Midway through the fourth, they figure things out. It gets interesting. DeMar DeRozan gives us the lead. Everything looked like it's going to be copacetic. But the Spurs just couldn't close this one out. And the end of the story is Joel Embiid got the call. It seems like he just got the call all night. The refs were everybody just breathed on Joel Embiid. He went to the stripe. I think that's really what happened with Jakob Portal in the very beginning of the game. Got two fouls very early. I think less than a minute and 32 seconds. He had to sit, but in his defense, Drew Eubanks stepped up big time, and he was playing not only good on defense, but he was doing little things down low too to get some putbacks and stuff. And I got to say, I got to commend him. I've been harsh on Drew Eubanks a lot, on this broadcast, but I got to say tonight he really showed me that he could play when we needed him, and he produced, so I was quite surprised by that. Another thing that I don't know if it's surprising, but Jonas hinted to it before we came on air, so I'm going to go ahead and pitch to you, Jonas. What's up with the lineup, dude?
Well, Pop definitely has his starters that he likes to use. We saw the same starting lineup for the sixth game consecutively now. He's ran with it all the way through the scrimmages and now through 3 bubble games. But if you noticed in the first quarter and really throughout that whole first half, Pop kind of started tinkering with that lineup again, especially after Jakob got into some foul trouble. Trying to find a way to handle Embiid and just the size of the Sixers. But, there was a lot of situations of changing out the guards, too. Patty made appearances in the first quarter. I think Quindary made appearance in the first quarter. That's on top of your already, Lonnie and Derek and DeJounte and Keldon, if you're putting him at that 3 or not, and stuff like that, and even DeMar. So everybody made appearances kind of there in that first quarter, and that was a little bit unsettling in terms of building a foundation for the rest of the game. Nobody could really find themselves getting in rhythm, and I think that you saw that kind of play out throughout the first, and where we had an opportunity to go ahead and maybe create a little separation and take an actual lead in the first. We just couldn't because we didn't have momentum.
We have somebody who's watching with us on Facebook. Zarin Pena, and he says all DeJounte had to do is guard the 3. He saw the same thing I did. DeJounte was late on that defensive rotation coming out, but honestly, at the end of the day, I don't even know how to pronounce that guy's name from the 76ers, so I'm not even going to try. He just got hot. He's a streaky shooter. He got hot, and I don't even think if DeJounte got on him in time, he was still going to make that shot. So the blame doesn't fully lie on DeJounte. There were some things that happened near the end of the game that the Spurs just let this one get away. And credit to the 76ers. They found a way to win because it looked like they were out of it. But they kept going to Joel Embiid down low. And that's really, their bread and butter. And that's what really frustrated the Spurs this entire game. And not only that, but he was going to get the whistle. Anytime somebody touched him, he's going to the stripe. Even though he's not a great free throw shooter, he made them, so credit to him. Spurs, I'm not really upset by the loss. While it does sting, I got to tell you, I was still happy with some of the things that I saw out of the younger players. As I stated before, this is development. Jonas had some issues with that tonight because they didn't play some of his favorite younger players out there. I don't understand the logic behind that as well. But regardless of what happens, the Spurs really fought themselves back into this game by playing defense. And you got to, say that this team can play defense. In the beginning we were saying, no, they can't. They were erratic. They were inconsistent. And now that they had the NBA restart, they're looking better. And I got to say, somebody already has said it here too. Are we trading LaMarcus now? I've been noticing that talk's been all over social media. Everybody wants to get rid of him now. Carl from Facebook says DJ should have given the ball to Debo instead of taking that layup with clock ticking. There's a lot of scenarios that we can go over near the end. And Jakob, they have a good point. Mr. Fishy Man is joining us on YouTube. Jakob didn't look like he fouled Embiid at the end, but the refs still blew that whistle. So I can see it's frustrating because you don't know what they're allowing. Because anytime you move and you can just stay there and Joel Embiid will bump into you, it's a foul. If he's initiating the contact, that's not a foul. If you're initiating the contact, that's a foul. So it is what it is on that end. But I got to tell you, I'm looking at the points by quarter. Spurs, 76ers first quarter, 35-32. Spurs in the second quarter beat the 76ers by 1 point, 30-29. Quarter number 3, 76ers pull away. 35 points is what they scored in the third. Spurs, 25. Story of the game here is what really gave us hope. Spurs in the fourth quarter, 43 points. Are you kidding me, man? To the 76ers, 33. But the final score tells you that the Sixers won, 130-132. I can look at some of the stats here, and you're not going to like it, Jonas, because the Spurs should have won this game. Rebounds gives the edge to the Spurs. Spurs had 44 rebounds compared to the 76ers' 35. Offensive rebounds, Spurs had 13 compared to the 76ers' 8. Defensive rebounds, Spurs had 31 compared to the 76ers' 27. Assist, that's where the 76ers beat us. They had 26, we had 21. Steals, we had 7, they had 6. Blocks, dead even at 6 each. Turnovers, 14 compared to the 76ers, who had 13. And then I look at the field goal percentage for the game. Spurs shot 49.5%. 76ers shot 52.9%. 3-point advantage goes to the San Antonio Spurs. Beyond the arc tonight, the Spurs shot 46.2%. 76ers 45.2%. Free throw shooting percentage, edge to the Spurs. 89.7% is what they shot for the night. 76ers 86.7%. Yet the 76ers came away with the win. It was a very close game if you look at the stats, as I just pointed out. Steven Anderson, let us know what your take was on this game. Why did the Spurs lose?
Well, I mean, the Spurs lost because of inconsistency. I mean, they were inconsistent from the moment the game started. They had good quarters. They had some bad quarters. Obviously, the fourth quarter, they really, really shined. DeMar DeRozan, who does not get enough credit, in my opinion. I'm going to pull a Jonas here. I don't think DeMar gets enough credit, in my opinion, for the work that he does for this team. 30 points for him tonight. And you still have people saying, let's trade him, let's get rid of him, I hope he doesn't come back. How exactly are you going to replace those 30 points on a nightly basis, or 25 points, or whatever his scoring average will be by the end of the season, next season? You think Lonnie Walker, Keldon Johnson are going to be those type of guys? Do you think Derek White's going to be that type of guy every single night? Of course not. It's not going to happen. You need DeMar on this team. But besides all that, here's the thing, guys. When you're reading the stats, Joe, you had said all these things that the Spurs wanted. Yes, we talked about DeJounte missing his defensive assignment. Yes. We talked about the inconsistency. Yes. But the Spurs still had a chance to win this game if Derek White and Keldon Johnson make their both free throws at the end of the game. They went 2 for 4. If they would have gone 4 for 4, the Spurs would have won the game. So that's an issue right there. It's not so much of, it's a young team, which of course it is. There's gonna be mistakes. There's gonna be games where they just don't look good because of the mistakes that they're making, and it's bound to happen. I fully expect that to happen on Wednesday and Friday, and going into next week also. But look at what we had pre-COVID, before virus took over our lives basically and shut us all down into a bubble. That Spurs team is miles gone. And this new team that we have here is much better than what they were before COVID. So I think despite, I'm not angry at this loss. Like I know Jonas, we were talking before we went on about some different things. Jakob Poeltl, I still agree, is a very, very decent big man for this Spurs team. I think that he is someone that and I said it before. I said on Twitter. I think you even retweeted my tweet, Jonas, that the Spurs need to make re-signing Jakob their number one priority. I
Yep.
know, Joe, you were saying he should have dunked the ball. Yeah, probably. But
I'm going to say it
also,
again.
he
Jakob
was
should have grown a
so
pair and dunked the ball instead of settling for that little sissy putback.
well.
Dunk
Hold,
the damn ball,
hold on,
man. You're the big guy out there.
but also he was in foul trouble the whole night for the second straight game. So I think he was more concerned about picking up an offensive foul and turning the ball over versus actually putting the ball in or dunking the ball. So I think that was also in the back of his mind. But also, DeMar really should have taken that last shot. I don't believe Embiid was the only one there, so he could have either bumped into Embiid and gotten that free throw. But then again, what do you got in the call? Who knows? Or at least pass it out to an open man on the wing who had been consistent, like a Rudy Gay, like a Derek White, like a Keldon Johnson, who were open at the time. So there was multiple things that went in that last play that we can go into. But overall, I think that this game just came out to inconsistency, missed free throws, little mistakes that cost them this game. Because if you look at the stats as a whole, Joe, you're right. They really should have won when you look at it.
Yeah, James Goss, he's saying, not mad they lost, just hope they learn. Seems they are actually listening to camp counselor Pop in the camp bubble. And here we go. Paul Saldana says, DeMar should have drew the foul. I agree. He deferred. He should have at least been aggressive and go to the rim. He probably would have went to the stripe because he would have gotten the superstar treatment, just like Joel Embiid. More than likely, we're thinking, right? But maybe that wouldn't have happened. The refs would have swallowed their whistle. Sergio Lozano says, needed this one because the rest of the schedule is daunting. I agree. This was one of the ones that they needed to have because with this loss, you didn't gain any ground on Memphis. You could have, gone up and made some really good headway, but now you're behind the ball, the 8 ball, and you have a daunting schedule ahead of you. You got some big teams there, so every game is pivotal because it's only 8 games. So every loss, you're going to feel it. Now the Spurs are going to need a little bit of help. If they can't find a way to win their next game and they lose again, then they're going to need a lot of help. But I had picked them to go 4-4 because I saw just what you guys saw, the daunting schedule ahead of them with some of these better teams in the Western Conference. I was going to read a comment by our good friend Jason Garcia. He wanted to trade LaMarcus Aldridge for some Burger Boy on the South Side. I think that's a pretty good deal, actually. And we're talking about the working man from Burger Boy because that's a good meal, and the shake, So I might think about that. Maybe we can make a fair, straight up trade. They throw in some onion rings, it's a done deal, man.
Before you guys go to Wesley, real quickly, maybe to say this is that the Spurs had trouble against Joel Embiid tonight in the paint. I mean, he was drawing fouls. We all know what happened in there tonight. Against Memphis, it was the same situation. Jakob was in foul trouble. Look who's next on the schedule. It's Nikola Jokic and the Denver Nuggets. That guy lost about. He looks like a brand new man. Basically, I don't know what the heck he was doing during quarantine, but he looks really good. So I mean, props to him first of all. But second of all, I will admit I have not seen Denver play since everything came back. But judging on how Jokic looked right before everything started up, I'm thinking if he was good before and he was a heavier guy then, he's going to be even more dangerous now that he's lost some weight. He's a lot more quicker, I would assume, than what he was before. So that's going to give the Spurs trouble already. Plus, you add Denver's perimeter guys on in the perimeter. You got Jokic, who can hit from the perimeter as well. So it's going to be a nightmare matchup for the Spurs. And you're right, guys, that this is the one the Spurs needed to get. Yeah. They should have gotten because I don't see a way they win Wednesday, particularly if Jakob is going to be the lone big man out there again.
Yeah, they're going to have some trouble, no doubt, against the Denver Nuggets inside the paint, just like they did today with Joel Embiid inside the paint. Points in the paint, actually, I can go ahead and tell you right here by looking at the stats. Spurs got outscored in the paint by 10 points. Philadelphia had 54 points in the paint. The Spurs had 44. In the prior game against Memphis, the Spurs got outscored heavily inside the paint by the Memphis Grizzlies, but still they found a way to win that game. And that scenario almost played out again tonight. The Spurs are still finding ways to win close games. Unfortunately, this one didn't go in their favor. My good friend Rick Villa says, "Hey Joe," I said, "Hey Rick, what's up?" He says, "Hey, you lose, you learn, you move on, you get better, plain and simple." It's true, a loss is a loss, but again, at the end of the day, we're seeing the team develop and get that much needed experience, especially these younger players. It's disheartening the way that they lost. I know Wesley was quite upset. He needed a beer before we got on air, so he had to chug it real quick to calm down. But Wesley, give us your insight. What did you see in today's game?
Yeah, I've just been sitting here contemplating what to talk about with the game tonight, guys.
You're not going to chug a beer for us on air? I'm just playing.
No, I've got my gummy bears. I'm chugging my gummy bears.
I was asking if they had or they were CDB infused gummy bears, but no. Sadly,
no,
they were not.
Just regular stuff. I think I am frustrated by this loss, and I'm frustrated by this loss because I seriously, honestly don't feel like this followed the flow of what we saw in the first two games in the bubble. We didn't get to really see much ball movement in that first half at all. Yes, the Spurs were only down 2, but if you go back and really nitpick, it was back to a lot of ISO ball. It was back to DeRozan from the get-go tonight obviously saw that maybe some of the younger cats just weren't ready, and he took it, and rightfully so. I'm not criticizing him, but he had it going on. It was nice to see Rudy get it going on, but I think at half I had tweeted this out, and Jonas and I were kind of bantering back and forth, about this. Is that where was Lonnie Walker at the time? Where was Derek White? Where was DeJounte Murray? Those guys have been so instrumental, and when we see them free flowing out there on the floor as they did versus the Grizzlies, and as they did, obviously, even in their first game, against the Kings, we just didn't see that. And as a result tonight, here's a telling stat that maybe we haven't talked about yet. Your leading assist man for the San Antonio Spurs tonight was Jakob Poeltl with 4 assists. That's going to be a problem. If you're going to have nobody distributing the ball and you're not sharing the ball and only 21 assists versus 14 turnovers tonight, that's not going to cut it. Those are the things that if you look at and you say, what is the priority? Jonas has talked about this at will, and I tend to agree with him. Are you trying to develop your players? Are you trying to develop their confidence? Are you trying to get them in the flow? Are you trying to work on team basketball? Or are you going to go down the stretch in these last 6, now 5 games and try to see, win at all costs? Because we've seen that throughout the season where that didn't work in their favor. We can point to the end of the game, but obviously, Joe, you talked about it a little bit, and you all did mention about that third quarter. I thought they looked gassed, and I thought that was a time where the younger guys really kind of just helped them stick around enough. Hats off to Quinndary Weatherspoon tonight. The stats aren't going to show that he had big points tonight or anything like that.
He played
but
great
he
defense.
was solid defensively.
Mm-hmm.
He had such a good game against just helping down on Embiid at times and just being a pest. Hats off to Keldon Johnson, who not only had a career high in points, because we always want to focus on what they scored, but the game that he played tonight, tough nose, just never backing down. May not go his way, but he's going to give you a consistent 100% effort. And I felt like, if we really are seriously saying, well, it's going to be up and down with the development of some of these players, I'm sorry, but can we really accept that DeJounte Murray to go 4 for 14 tonight? And
let me ask you a question,
little
because
to
one
no
of our
impact.
viewers is asking this. He says, and Jonas brought it up too, I think. It was weird how Lonnie Walker only played 19 minutes tonight, which in the past he's been up there in the minutes. So what do you think that was attributed to?
So really quick, I know it was Wesley that mentioned that on Twitter, and then I replied back to Wesley. But as I saw that comment come along too, I just really started thinking about it. Only 19 minutes. And if you think back to last night's game. Just last night, he had a point in the game where he landed a little rough on what looked like it was his knee.
Yeah.
I think it was maybe third or fourth quarter. It was towards the end. And so, and I mentioned this last night after the game too, when we started to preview this evening's game, where this is only the Sixers' second game. It's their second in 3 days. So they had a day off. They played on Friday, whereas, or Saturday rather. And this is a Spurs' third game in the bubble, where we played on Friday, we played on Sunday, and now we're playing on Monday. So at points where the team did look gassed or maybe a little bit out of it, especially the veterans, that's maybe to be expected at this point in the conditioning part. But, Lonnie's minutes were a question. And so I didn't see from the camera angle or anything like that if he might have, taken himself out of the game. But if that knee was bothering him when he landed on it weird last night, he came down from a dunk opportunity. Yeah. And if he kind of either tweaked it a little bit in the first half, and which is why he only finished the first half with 7 minutes and came back for another 12 in the second half, if that's what it was, it might be a situation to watch.
Yeah, definitely. Well, maybe it was attributed to an injury. Let me read some of the comments here. Alexander Mesquite from Periscope says, "Win at all costs. Race for the 23." James Hernandez on Facebook, he had a comment here too. He says, "Despite the loss, Spurs played well against one of the best teams in the East." And he was right. They did. Paul Saldana says, "Hugh and KJ stepped up. They sure did. We saw that in today's game. And that's a good thing. That's one of the, I guess, silver linings in this whole thing is that we saw Quindary Weatherspoon and what he was capable of doing out there."
Joe, let me say this though, and this is something that Jonas, you study young college players or young prospects coming in. If you shoot 50, 40, 90 as a whole, you're going to win almost all of the time. The Spurs shoot nearly 50 tonight, 49.5, 46.2 from the three, and 89.7, 90% from the free throw line. It goes back to the same thing, is that I agree with what some of the people are saying. I think they do need to win, and I do think that some of these guys are getting to develop, but you have to expect a little bit more out of Derek White and DeJounte Murray, especially tonight, because they were no-shows, AWOL really in the first half, and just kind of coasted until we saw them start to pep up a little bit in that third and fourth quarter. And I don't really want to call them, maybe DJ a little bit more because he got that injury that kept him out, but those are veterans, guys. Those are certainly young players, but let's be honest. The guys beating the Spurs tonight, besides Embiid, and by the way, they certainly fouled out point guard, and there you go. You had a chance, and you got beat by guys who are not as good as our younger guys. That's just my point. And if we're gonna say it's all about the development of the players, I agree with you. But the guys that have been in the lineup for a long time now, DJ, Derek White, those guys have to show. They have to show for the whole game. They can't go and disappear and expect that, you're going to have a 46-point or 43-point quarter to come pull you out of it.
Let me read two more comments here real quick by some of our viewers joining us from Periscope. Anthony Gonzalez says, "Memphis has a ridiculous schedule as well as Utah, Thunder, Raptors, Celtics, and the Bucks." And Lalisha Cunningham from Periscope says, "She's damn upset about this loss. There's little room for error in the bubble." And that's what we said too. And she's right. There is little room for error. Everybody's upset about the loss, but like we said, we got to look for the silver lining in all this, because if not, we're going to go and run and bang our heads into the wall, and then we're going to drink some beers afterwards to get over this one. But what were you going to say, Jonas?
No, I just wanted to say I think it's a little unfair to call guys like DeJounte and Derek veterans per se. Derek's first year in the NBA was last year. He spent probably the majority of the year before that in Austin, winning the G League title. And we only got to see what he was last year because he got thrust into that role with DeJounte's injury. DeJounte in himself is coming off the injury, so you're right. But even so, in the time that he was with the team before, we still had Tony Parker. It's not like it was quite, we had handed the baton off to DeJounte at that point. So we were still in the middle of that transition phase. And it was starting to happen, and it was getting ready for that to be his team last year. before his injury. So I still think it's a little bit unfair to call them quite veterans. Did they need to step up more? Yes. I believe that Derek White is the best player on this roster. I believe he's your captain moving forward. He's one of the best communicators, I think, in terms of getting guys in the right place, even directing other players when he doesn't have the ball. He is the best on both ends of the floor. So do you need him to step up a little bit more? Yes. But it just goes back to the youth part where he has to develop consistency. And I thought we were really starting to see it. And I don't know that you can really say tonight wasn't more consistency, because he still put up a 20-point game and he still, took care of business. But I think that the most important stat that I think it was Wesley mentioned is that assist game. Like, what on earth happened there? DeMar DeRozan, almost had a triple double or double the other night. So did DeJounte. Where we've had these guys hitting 8-9 assists that are your top flight scorers, but they're also getting other guys involved. And then you have Jakob, who was already limited in minutes for the game due to foul trouble, and he's your leading assist man at 4. So that I see that. But I just wanted to say, I don't think it's quite fair to call them veterans and say that they need to do more when they're still in that early development part of taking this franchise on their shoulders too. They're just in an unfortunate situation of only having Rudy and DeMar above them.
Yeah, let me go ahead and read some more our comments, because we're getting a lot of comments from our viewers. We have James Hernandez saying he liked the energy that Drew Eubanks was bringing off the bench tonight. And I agree. I like the energy that Drew Eubanks did bring off the bench tonight. He brought it, man, from both a defensive and an offensive standpoint, getting some little putbacks there. Toddy Gods over from YouTube, thank you for watching, by the way. And everybody who's in here right now, thank you for taking the time to really, interact with us, give us some comments, and for watching. We really appreciate it. Really, we do. Tim Rodriguez says, tough loss tonight, Joe. Damn it, we had it. I know we did, and it hurts that we lost the way we did. And we have somebody blaming DeJounte Murray. But we won't get into that. We won't get into that because Jonas won't stand for no DeJounte
Hurdle should have
Murray
dunked the
slander.
ball. That's all. Hurdle should have dunked the ball. And by the way, I'm just going to say it. I'm going to go Houston Rockets. I think they should petition the league. I'm kidding. No, but I mean, that missed call at the end of the third quarter with the shot clock violation certainly did. This game really, honestly, should be going to overtime, at the end of the game. But again, like Steven said, you missed 2 free throws down the stretch again, and that's going to all the time jump up to bite you when you give those opportunities, those points away.
Yeah, Anthony Gonzalez, friend of mine on Twitter, he said, somebody have the count on how many charges White has taken in these 3 games. Derek White has taken a lot of abuse. He's been taking a lot of charges, man. He's got the chipped tooth. He took a knee to the groin and everything. I mean, it's very Manu-esque the way he's taking these charges. But you got to love the energy and his ability to go ahead and draw these offensive fouls. That's his thing. He's playing great defense right now, and I think he's been one of the better players, one of the consistent players for the San Antonio Spurs in these 3 games. He's been pretty solid, I gotta say. Let me see what Jack Matlock says. He said, we should contest the game. Jack Matlock always says, due to the Embiid shot clock violation. This was bogus. I agree with you, man. I feel you, man. I know how upset you are. Spurs fans are really upset. We were ready to go honking, and the damn 76ers ruined our parade, man. Tim Rodriguez, he says, Joe, I love Murray, but his defense on the last play was ass. I know exactly what he's talking about, man. It's one of those things that happens. It happens. He was just late on the rotation. But the thing was, that kid that made the 3, he was already hot. So no matter what would have happened,
he wasn't.
He might have made it anyway.
DeJounte was not late on the rotation.
He was late on the rotation. I got the tape.
No. Hold on. Let me finish here.
Roll the tape.
He was hold on. Roll the tape, and you'll see he was actually providing help defense down in the paint on Joel Embiid. That's really what he was doing. Now, was it the right move? No, it wasn't. That was a brain lapse because they needed a 3 to win it, but they needed only a 2 to tie. So you defend the win, not the tie, because even if it ties, you go into overtime and you still have a chance to fight.
I really
But
thought
Murray
it
was
going to overtime.
providing help defense. He was providing, if you tie, then you push overtime and you have a chance to win. But he was providing help defense down in the paint. That's why he was playing off his man. So he did it wrong. It was a bad move, but it's the way they played all night in terms of trying to double team Joel Embiid every opportunity they could.
Yeah, because
bad move, but he was not out of
Milton was
rotation.
2 steps behind the 3-point line too. Let's not forget that. He was 2 steps behind the 3-point line when he let that go.
I see Steven wants to get in on this.
All right, Steven, jump in here,
so
man.
bad.
Tell us, man, what you got?
Okay, so a lot of things, guys, a lot of things. Okay, so first off, both Wesley and Jonas, you guys mentioned about development. It's just about development. Let's be real for like 5 minutes here, okay? Pop is not going to miss out on an opportunity to go to the playoffs for a 23rd straight season. Let's just get that part out of the way. Now, if the Spurs would have lost those first 2 games, I guarantee you would have saw Luka out there tonight. You probably would have saw a bunch of these guys that have not been playing out there tonight. But realistically, the Spurs don't have a chance at getting into the playoffs. They're after this loss. Even still, they're going to need some help to get in if they do. But they have a chance. They're not mathematically out of it yet. They're not like a Phoenix Suns that have 0 chance right now. The Spurs still have a chance to make the playoffs. That's number 1. Number 2 is I think it's a little bit of both. I think it was Jonas. You said the reason why Lonnie Walker had about 19 minutes tonight. I think it's because a little bit of 2 things. One, I think it is because he did have an injury last game, and I think Pop just didn't want to overdo him. Considering it's been 100-something days since they've even played, so they're not really fully into game mode just yet. But also, it's a little bit of a teaching moment also because you've seen times where I felt tonight that, and you're right, Jonas and Wesley, both of you guys are right. The fact that it is this. The young guys did not have it from the minute this game started. From the minute this game started, they were a step behind. It could be fatigue from playing yesterday. It could be the fact they were playing 3 games in 4 nights. It could have been, who knows what it could have been. But the point is they didn't have it. So DeMar DeRozan and Rudy Gay, who, by the way, give Rudy Gay a gold star or whatever you want to give him for a fantastic performance in the bubble. The first time he's had a very good season, a very good game in the bubble since the game came back. So good props to him for that. If he can keep it up, who knows? But great job for him today. But the fact that Pop went to DeMar, he went to Rudy, and kept going to those guys consistently showed that Pop was leaning on those veterans a little bit more than he did those first 2 games because the young guys did not have it. And because the young guys did not have it, it forced Pop to do that. And I saw so many comments on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram of, Pop's going back to his old ways. Well, he doesn't really have a choice. If guys like Keldon Johnson, Lonnie Walker, all these guys just don't have it. DeJounte Murray, Wesley, you mentioned, had a very poor night. And yes, he did have a poor night. That's what I'm saying. So Pop, I'm so sick and tired of seeing people criticizing the moves that Pop is making when he doesn't have a choice in some of these situations, considering there's no LaMarcus, there's no Trey Lyles. Who else are you going to go to? I don't care if Rudy Gay went 2 for 11 and he manages to make 5 straight shots in a row or something in the fourth quarter, and he's hot. You stick with the hot guy. I think we all know that by now. So, all these comments from fans, even you guys have some great comments tonight also, but there's reasons behind the way things are happening. And isn't about development. 100% is about development, because I tweeted this earlier. These bubble games are going to help Keldon Johnson. They're going to help Spoon. They're going to help, Derek White, DeJounte Murray, and Lonnie. All these young guys are the future of this Spurs team. These games are going to help them. But right now, the Spurs' goal is to make the playoffs. Will they get swept by the Lakers if they make it? More than likely, yes. But the fact that they want to still make the playoffs and even have a chance to make the playoffs, considering how crap they played, but pre-COVID, and they have a chance to make the playoffs right now, is pretty remarkable. So I think Pop is going to do everything he can to get into the playoffs. And until it's mathematically impossible, you're not going to see the development begin until then. So I think it's a little bit of both. It's what's going on, helping the young guys develop while trying to get into the playoffs. So there's 2 things going on at once. Is it helpful? I don't know. I'm not a coach. But is it possible to do both? Of course it is. So, it's a little bit of both going on.
Hey, I'm going to give a quick shout out here. Thanks for that great take, Steven. Toddy Gods over here from YouTube says, Eubanks and even Zeller played good. in a few minutes. He goes, I want
True.
Spurs to beat Nuggets, our emerging young team versus theirs. That's going to be a battle. It is. And then we also have Jack Matlock again joining us from Periscope saying Spoon. Spoon did good today. And Paul Garcia joining us from YouTube. He says, Spoon looked great out there, Joe. I agree. Quindary Weatherspoon looked amazing out there. He's another young player like Keldon that likes to go out there and play defense. So future looks bright for us, probably in the next couple seasons here. So we're going to go around the horn real quick here. Spurs do have an upcoming game. Predictions on that game that'll be coming up, I believe, if I look at the schedule here, we have that game on Wednesday against the Denver Nuggets. I know Steven has already said it's going to be a tough win for the San Antonio Spurs, especially because of the size is going to bother us. Points in the paint's going to be another issue. Jonas, do you think this is a game that the Spurs win or lose?
I think they lose this one. I had this one pegged on Friday as a game that they lose when we talked about this on Friday. And it's just because I thought that I really did think we were going to have tonight. But regardless of that outcome, and when you just look at how much we've played, and then the fact that, yes, we're going into this, down in terms of size, we're still missing, some of our 3-point shooting, which we still shot well from 3. I think, like you said, Wesley, It was a 40% kind of night. It just didn't, it seemed that the Sixers could keep pace with us, but we're just going to get outsized in this next one again too. Memphis was almost, a little bit of luck. I think that they really didn't go with Valanciunas as much as they could have to take advantage of the Jakob Poeltl matchup, because Jakob's a big guy. He's 7'1", but he just lacks some of that athleticism against more athletic big men. Valanciunas knew how to work it, and you saw tonight just how Embiid could go at him in the post. And overall, as a team, they defended Embiid very well, I think, to hold him to, I think it was 27 points throughout the game. But he dropped 41 on the Pacers on Saturday night. And they have a Miles Turner over there, who I would put as a better big man than Jakob Poeltl. Yeah. Again, more athletic. He moves a little bit better than him. And he gets up better than him than Jakob does. But I think that this is just one we're not going to be able to keep up with. Joker is a walking triple-double, and he showed it again in their last game against the Thunder. He had, in 39 minutes, he had 12 rebounds, 10 assists, and 30 points. Yeah. So what more do what else do you expect from Nikola Jokic, right? And then it's just going to be another big man game, like you said. Michael Porter Jr., he dropped in 37 points and 12 rebounds in 44 minutes. And Paul Millsap added another 17 points and 6 rebounds in his 35. So we're going to get outsized in this next one. If our guards can keep it up, though, and maybe provide a little bit more 3-point support, I like our chances. But I just don't think that this one's going to be a W. And I think that because we're going to lose this next game, it's going to help us down the stretch. It's going to leave a bad taste in their mouth to lose 2 in a row. And I'd like to see how this young team with a lot of dog in them, we all talk about that dog in this team. And I want to see how they respond to that. And that's going to be a part of that development moving forward.
Hey, I'm going to give a quick shout out to Paul Saldana watching us from Twitter. He noticed my Coyote Dad hat. He likes that. I actually got it from a local artist here in San Antonio who made a limited run of some merch, and he sold them at this T-shirt shop on West Avenue here, and they went by quick. I mean, he held one for me, thank God, because if not, they would have already sold out by the time I got there. But since you noticed my hat so much, what I'm going to do is, if you can DM me on my Twitter account, I'm going to go ahead and send you this little Spurs Coyote sticker and also this button that has like the Kanye album, but it's the Spurs Coyote Kanye. I'll go ahead and send that to you since you noticed the hat. Appreciate that you stayed this long and you're watching. So I'm going to send you some love too. DM me and I'll get that mailed out to you. And anybody else, we might be giving away some more stuff when you watch the Spurs Takeover. So you keep on watching and we'll give you some little things like that because we show our appreciation. So, Wesley, Spurs going to win against the Nuggets or going to lose against the Nuggets?
You guys are going to think I'm overreacting, but I think this is a must-win for them because the mindset of a young team is always going to be more fragile than that of a team that has veteran-laden talent. So the fact that they went out 2-0, they lost a close game, one that they really probably should have had tonight. Um, I think if they go down 2 after winning 2, this could be the start of the end of them getting into in a playoff position. I really feel that. I mean, I think that part of that has to do with the fact that you've got a Portland team that's very capable. Now, Portland themselves have got Houston, Denver, Clippers, and Philadelphia, along with Dallas coming up. That's a monster of a schedule to come up with. And don't forget, though, that the Sacramento Kings, of all people, who have ended up being the bridesmaid for so many years in that 9th spot, in the last 2 or 3 years, especially. Don't forget about them, because, I mean, again, somebody's going to end up that 9th seed. I think they're going to end up 4 games within the Grizzlies. But to me, I'm greedy. I want the Spurs to go in now and be the 8th seed and have to have 1 game to win against an opponent as opposed to playing 2. And so, long of the short is, I feel like they can beat and they will beat the Nuggets. I feel like the Sixers presented more challenges tonight. If you just look at Tobias Harris, Joel Embiid, if you looked at Ben Simmons, just those 3 guys alone on that floor against our starting unit, they just look like grown men compared to, the young boys out there. And yet our team valiantly, can't say the word, put up a great fight tonight and really had their chance to win at the end. I don't think the Spurs fear Jokic as much because they faced him in the playoffs last year. I think that this is a good matchup for them if the young guys can get their swagger back, if they can pass the ball like they're capable of, if they can defend and get into the open court, if they can get, hopefully Lonnie's okay, if they can get Lonnie involved again and have him, make some contributions, along with what's growing confidence with Quindary and obviously with the other young guys going on. I feel like they could come away with this, but I really do. This is a must win. I feel the Spurs will get this one.
Yeah, Lalisha joining us from Periscope says the same thing. John Tillman says, I agree completely, Wesley. You got 2 people who are agreeing with you, Wesley. I'm hopeful that the Spurs can come out and have a better showing and play a better complete game, from start to finish. If they do that, I think they give themselves a chance to be in the fight, especially in that 4th quarter, with maybe like 2 or 3 minutes left. Game could get really close if the Spurs play a full, complete game. And they could come out with the win. They damn well could, very well. So I'm hopeful that they'll come out with the win. But one of the things that does concern me a lot is going to be the paint. How are they going to keep the Joker from scoring his? We did have trouble with one of the big men tonight, Joel Embiid. I think it's going to be pretty much the same from the Joker, because one of the keys to victory here, Jakob Poeltl can't get in foul trouble that early in the game. He has to find a way to contribute on that defensive end by not getting into foul trouble with a minute and 32 seconds into the game and you already got 2 fouls. That's not going to cut it. Yes, we can throw other bodies out there. Tyler Zeller played for a couple minutes there and he looked okay. He was contributing as well. Everybody was trying to do the best they could out there, and I commend the Spurs for that. I mean, Tyler Zeller is a professional because he hadn't played for quite some time here in the NBA. He came in and he was able to contribute. So kudos to him, and kudos to Drew Eubanks, even though I've given him a lot of slack. He did good tonight, so I got to commend him for that. But moving forward, it's going to be a tough challenge for the San Antonio Spurs. And not only that, do they have to go play against Denver? But if my eyes are not deceiving me, this is going to be a 3 o'clock tip-off. How in the heck can you get up for a 3 o'clock game in the middle of the day? You just barely had your lunch, and now you got to go out there and play 48 minutes of basketball. So that's going to be a challenge in itself right there. So we're going to go ahead go around the horn before we go ahead and close this episode of the Spurs Takeover. And
hold up. I want to know what Steven thinks. I want to know what Steven thinks as far as this Nuggets series.
Well, yes,
I know
he
he said we're going to lose.
And I still agree they're going to lose. But I mean, first of all, Wesley, are you sure those gummy bears not laced with something? Because come on, bro, there's no way
they had CBD. They were CBD infused.
Let me just say this. Forget Forget what the Spurs did pre-COVID. Let's focus on these first 3 games. In these first 3 games, you had De'Aaron Fox rip the Spurs up from the paint. You had Ja Morant rip the Spurs up from the paint. Tonight, you had Joel Embiid rip the Spurs up from the paint. I'm seeing a pattern here, guys. Unless the Spurs have problems in the paint, guarding the paint, that's their issue. You got one of the best big men in the league. I'm sorry, let me rephrase that before I get roasted here. The best upcoming big man in the league, in the Joker, who is a monster inside. I agree. It's going to be another issue where the Spurs are having problems in the paint, especially if Jakob gets in the foul trouble early. I don't think Drew Eubanks has the size or the build to really contain with a Joker like that. So that's going to be an issue. Obviously, Denver's guards are going to be an issue. It's just going to be a massive. Why can't I think? It's going to be a massive test for the Spurs right now to see if they can get this done. And the thing is that you have Utah right after that on Friday at freaking 12:00 noon. I don't know who the heck scheduled these games, but I'm not liking the early afternoon games. But let me just say this: is that you got the one who started all this up to begin with, Rudy Gobert, on Friday, and another big guy that the Spurs will have to contend with. So I mean, it's just a bad string of luck for the Spurs, and until the Spurs can find a big man, you mentioned Miles Turner. Can you imagine Miles Turner in a Spurs uniform and Jakob coming off the bench as his backup? Can you imagine that? That'd be fantastic. But until the Spurs find a decent starting big man that can actually handle, or handle some size inside and do things like that. I'm not saying Jakob can't handle it. I'm just saying he can't handle it by himself.
Steven, they should have gotten Marcus Morris. They would have been fine.
Oh my God, you have to bring that
up. You're living in the past. You're living in the past, Wesley.
I think those gummy bears were CBD infused. Wesley's tripping over here, man.
But
let's move forward.
Leon, let's move forward. But let me just say that am I saying the Spurs have zero shot? No, I'm not saying that. I think the Spurs have a legit shot to win on Wednesday. They have a chance. I don't think they will, but that doesn't mean they don't have a chance
there's
to do
a
it
chance
if they can play like they did in those. Yes, I am, in those first 2 games. So I mean, there's a chance. It's just a matter of what team is going to show up. Is it going to be the team that we saw tonight, or it's going to be the team that we saw yesterday? Because if it's the team that we saw against Memphis, that team has a chance to win. So it's just a matter of what team decides to show up. That's all I have to say on that.
Okay, well, let's go around.
And when you look at the roster too, you do have a lot more length just up and down that entire roster for the Nuggets, where they can run a lineup where the smallest guy on the court is 6'7", and we've got a bunch of guys who are 6'9". But I mean, DJ 6'4", Keldon 6'5", Derek 6'4".
Keldon's like
they
230
can put a lot
or something,
of length.
man. He's got a big body.
And they still have Plumlee, and they still have Bobo. So even if you get somebody into foul trouble, they can just go ahead and start subbing people in and out. And it's just going to be size that we just can't deal with.
Yeah, especially Bobo.
We have a chance, though. I'm with you, Steven. We have a chance. It's just not very likely. My money is not on the Spurs to win this game. And I will gladly lose that. I will gladly lose that money. But I'm just not putting it on there.
Spurs win by 5. Book it.
Oh, there you go. I'll take that. I'm with Wesley. I kind of feel they're going to have a better showing. Will it be enough to win? Who knows? But if you say they're going to win by 5, that's your prediction. I'll take it.
Would you want to put some money on that, Wesley?
I'm down. Whatever y'all want.
A bag of gummy bears, CBD infused.
I'm telling you, the one thing about Denver is a finesse game. The one thing that scared me tonight about Philadelphia was Philly is just they're brutes. I mean, Tobias Harris and Embiid are like in the paint, like just monsters. And we saw that. Pirtle's in foul trouble, in the first half, dang near like not a factor in the game. And I agree. I mean, it's not that it's not that Jokic and Plumlee and those guys aren't. It's just the fact that it's a different style of team. You're talking about De'Aaron Fox, who's we've seen the perimeter guys give the Spurs fits all year long. That's not a surprise. The Spurs have never been strong this year about getting in the paint defense. But the fact of the matter is, if the young guns pass the ball like they're capable of, they're going to put up points. It's going to make the Nuggets have to scramble. And that's where a large lineup may not be the best thing. If you've got, got a guy like DeJounte and Derek that are feeding off each other, they're gonna spin those guys around. But if they're gonna do what they did tonight, it's gonna be a moot point.
Yeah. So we're gonna go around the horn now, since it's getting a little late now, and I am getting hungry because I haven't eaten. I've been covering the game. I've been putting up, video clips on everywhere.
Gummy bears.
I haven't even had any gummy bears. I barely had I think a bottle of water to drink. I didn't even drink any alcohol. Damn it! Should have had a beer at least watching this damn game. Well, anyway, let's go ahead and start with you, Stephen. Where can they reach you and interact with you on social media?
Alrighty, well, you guys can follow me on Twitter at the Stephen A. That's Stephen with the PH. The Stephen A. I will have this Spurs game recap if anybody's up to read it at this time of night. But I mean, let's face it, we have nothing else to do with our lives. So since COVID is taken over, but
You're living the
you
COVID
guys can
life,
follow me on
Stephen.
Twitter at the Stephen A. What?
The COVID life. We all live the COVID life. We're just stuck at home.
Hashtag COVID life, exactly. So you guys can follow me on Twitter for that at the Stephen A on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. I will have the Spurs game recap up with my 3 standout players of the night. Fun fact: we actually mentioned all 3 of them in this broadcast, so that should be kind of fun if you guys can figure that out. And on Wednesday, my Twitter is going to be popping because you got Spurs in the afternoon, Big Brother in the evening. It's going to be a full day of me on Twitter, so follow me for all that fun stuff. It should be a good one.
There you go. Make sure you go and do follow Stephen. He has some good stuff that he comes out with. He has very insightful articles, and for all your entertainment needs, go ahead and follow Stephen Anderson. Wesley, where can they go ahead and get with you on social media so they can talk Spurs, Game of Thrones? Because yes, Wesley is a big Game of Thrones fan, and he likes to talk a little bit about Star Wars and some of the other genre that is everything geek. So where can they reach you on social media?
I'm at Wesley Perk, but before I talk anything about that, just real quick, I want to echo, Jonas just put out a great article about the development of the Spurs, and Stephen Knightley puts out incredible recaps of what the games are, and just, good content. You follow him also for, SAFC as he covers soccer really, really well. Give those guys some plugs because they're, it's well worth it. Project Spurs guys, all of them are incredible. Right this time of year, I've been on Netflix a ton. I'm sure we all have. And so I think I've watched all of Breaking Bad and all of Better Call Saul and Making a Murderer and Tiger King. And yeah, so anything about anything, we'll talk about it. Spurs, Red Raiders, college football. Kind of excited, but still nervous as to whether that's going to happen or not. And Major League Baseball is still going barely, but, nonetheless, I'm glad to see the NBA going strong, and we get to have these conversations. It's always a pleasure to talk to you fellas.
Yeah, somebody named Tim Rodriguez
Tiger
here
King.
following us on YouTube. He says, Wesley, the Game of Thrones finale was disappointing. I got to agree, it was disappointing.
No.
It was disappointing. The three-eyed raven, bro. Come on, dude. I'm done with that.
Okay.
I'll argue that too. Come on, man.
No.
Okay, Joe.
There's been worse finales. Let's be real.
Joe, Jonas, Steven. I binged watched that series. I caught up 7 seasons over spring break so that I could watch the new season when it came out. And that was what it ended up being.
Dead,
I was just like, you've got to be kidding me. It was the most disappointing season of any series.
Okay, well, let me ask you this then: Tiger King, did she beat her? Did she beat him to the tiger?
Of course she did.
Oh yeah,
yes.
for sure.
Yes,
for sure. And what most people don't know is she actually has bought his zoo. She owns his zoo now. That not her late husband, but the Tiger King zoo. So, I'm all about white trash TV. Bring it. Let's do it.
All right.
Watch Big Brother on Wednesday on that, Wesley.
Yep, you got it.
Jonas, where can they reach you on social media and interact with you?
I want to respond really quick to this chat that just came in. Whereas from Tim Rodriguez, he said, "Come on, Jonas, admit it. That finale was ass." Tim, I'm an ass man. Then that's okay. So you can follow me. You can follow me at Jark Clonus on Twitter. I did have a new piece out there.
I think Steven's dead
that
over
just
there.
came out this weekend. Talking about putting together the puzzle that is the Spurs. It came apart in 2000, started to come apart in 2016. When Tim Duncan left, it really came apart in 2018 when, within that calendar year, we lost Tony to free agency. We lost Kawhi to trade, and we lost Manu ultimately to retirement that year. And so how that kind of reset and reshuffled the pieces of the puzzle board. And if you know anything about putting together a puzzle, you kind of have to go at it with the strategy of building a border around it, and then you build from the outside in. And I think the Spurs have really done that, especially utilizing the Austin Spurs organization, which is what I specifically covered for Project Spurs. So if you want to check it out, go to my Twitter profile at JarkClonus on Twitter. It's the pinned tweet. It's right there up top. And I'll gladly debate anybody on lots of my apparent hot takes where I defend, my Bryn Forbes and my Jakob Pertl love. And then I'll also go talk about the ass that is the Game of Thrones finale if you want to, Tim.
Oh, God. So you can also reach me at, Two Shots Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. And it's all spelled out TWOSHOTS Podcast. And also to make sure you go and follow all the great things that are coming out of Project Spurs, because we are doing this show in partnership with Project Spurs. So make sure you go and give Project Spurs a follow on Twitter and on Facebook. And also make sure you go to the website, projectspurs.com, for all your Spurs information. They have a bunch of great articles, news, insightful insights as far as like Paul Garcia, because he's your go-to stat guy. Everything you need to know about the game and how it broke down, go ahead and check that out over at projectspurs.com. So for Jonas Clark, Wesley Perkins, and Steven Anderson, I'm Joe Garcia. Thank you guys for watching another episode of the Spurs Takeover. And like we say, spread the love, stop the hate, be kind, and we're out. We'll see you guys. Have a good evening.